Hey Bookish Babes, and welcome to my book nook. For those that are new around here, my name's Jody Barton. I'm an elementary music teacher and middle school musical theater teacher by day, booktuber by night, mom in between, and all sorts of other things. And on this channel we talk about books, lots of books, sometimes thriller and horror, sometimes romance, historical fiction, sci-fi fantasy, you name it, we probably talk about it. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow along for videos every Sunday, occasionally Wednesdays, and other random days. So I decided I wanted to do a bookshelf tour of all that is on my shelves because one, I'm very proud of my shelves. You'll get a full look at them in a minute. But I didn't have any bookshelves at all a couple months ago, and now I have like a lot of shelves. And I want to talk about all of the books that I have because I love seeing other people do bookshelf tours because then I find books that I'm definitely intrigued in that I can add to my Goodreads. And so hopefully you'll be able to find some off of mine as well. And so I'm going to show you the entire look at a whole, talk about what we're going to be seeing today because we're going to be seeing my bookshelves in here, my book cart, my TBR cart, and possibly my other bookshelf out in the living room. And then I will just go through how I organize and all the things and then show you book by book. And I have tons of books and most of them are unread. I'm not going to even lie. So let's dive in. Because of how small my office is, it's kind of hard to get it all in one take. But these are my 3 shelves that I have. And I have them organized in a specific way. Like over here is like my red book groups. And then like my Twilight and Vampire series. And then I have like my part of my YA and my professional development down there. And then over here I have romance and like contemporary fiction, my historical fiction, and more like literary fiction. I have more YA, so that's like my YA shelf. That is like planners and journals and all the things. And then up here I have thriller, and horror all together. That's my biggest genre. And my little shelves of fantasy, which I actually have now. Pretty exciting. And then I have my TBR cart. And then I have my stuff in the hall. So we're just going to dive right in and look at all the books on my shelves and talk about them. So I do love to categorize by genre, and I also try to categorize by author within that genre. So as we're looking, you'll see that if I have more than one book from an author, I'll try and put them together, but I can't always because, for example, I don't want to put like a hardcover and a paperback next to each other necessarily. I don't know, I'm finicky about things like that. Maybe that doesn't bother you, but it bothers me. All right, let's get started. I have you propped up on my camera stand, and so we're just going to go with it. So I do love giraffes. Giraffes are actually my favorite animal, and so that's why I have this little bookend here. I used to have him fit to where he wasn't blocking any books, but I have too many books now. So this is my entire Jody Picol shelf. Jody Picol is one of my favorite authors, and so I'm just going to show you each book. I have read all of them except for Wish You Were Here, which is her newest one. But the books that I have are Sing You Home, Lone Wolf, A Spark of Light, Wish You Were Here. This is her newest one that she wrote about the pandemic. Haven't read it just yet. Change of Heart, Vanishing Act, Plain Truth, Picture Perfect, The Storyteller, 19 Minutes, a classic, Songs of the Humpback Whale, which is my favorite Jody Picol and very underrated, The Book of Two Ways, actually I haven't gotten to this one yet either, Second Glance, House Rules, I love this one because it has a boy with autism and I have 2 autistic brothers, Salem Falls, of course we've got to have the OG, My Sister's Keeper, and then this is not Jody Picol, but this is the only Hunger Games book I have Mockingjay randomly, so that's that shelf. The next shelf that I have is an entirely red shelf, and I tried to keep it with all of my book of the months that I had together, even color-coded, and then like hardcovers, and then just kind of random. But I put all my red books in one area so that whenever I'm looking for books on my shelf, and I want to read another book, or I want someone to pick out a book on my shelf, I have a section for red. And like I said, it's really only these 2 shelves that I've read, so I need to read a lot more. But on this shelf, I have some of my favorites, like The Silent Patient, an all-time fave by Michaelides. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was my top book in 2021. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was another great book that I read this year in January. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you can tell, I really love Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Maidens by Michaelides. This one wasn't as good, but still liked it. The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This cute little Christmas rom-com that I absolutely love. The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. Didn't love it quite as much. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, which is the first in a book of 3. Super steamy. Shiver by Allie Reynolds. My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. Absolutely loved this book. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Loved it. Drawn to You by Ren Montgomery. That's my friend actually wrote this book. It's quite fabulous. Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire, which is the first book in the Wayward Children's series, which this is the only book that I own, but it was really great. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, one of 2 books that I've read by her, and it wrecked me, of course. Near the Bone by Christina Henry, a really great horror read. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, also loved this romance read. Where They Found Her by Kimberly McCreight, probably going to get rid of this soon because I DNF'd it. The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I rather enjoyed this. This was my first read of 2022. The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. It was such a cute little Christmas rom-com. And For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. She also wrote My Lovely Wife, and I loved both of these so much. And those are all the books that I have read between this shelf and this shelf. So now we are going to move on to my vampire romance shelf. Okay, then we have my vampire romance shelf, which is exactly what it sounds like, except for it doesn't have all vampire on it, but mostly. So, I have the Twilight 10th Anniversary Edition, which not only comes with Twilight, but on the back it comes with Life and Death, which is basically like Twilight with a girl vamp, or I think with the roles reversed. It's Twilight Reimagined, which means it's with Beaufort and Edith instead. Haven't read it. I've only read Twilight. Midnight Sun, of course, because you gotta love it. New Moon. Eclipse, Breaking Dawn, and then we start with the other vampire series I have, Crave by Tracy Wolff, Crush, Covet, and the latest one that came out literally like a week ago, Court. Then I have the first 3 books in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. There's only 4, so I need to get the 4th one. The first one is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. Then we have Hunting Prince Dracula. And then we have Escaping from Houdini, and the last one is called Capturing the Devil, and I'm going to buy that super soon. Then we have my YA/circus book section, so let's just go through that super quick. So I have the Intermediate Guide to Aerial Silk by Jill Franklin, because if you don't know, I also teach circus in my spare time. I have the Ultimate Hoop Bible, which is just literally pictures of how to do circus tricks, so that's pretty cool. My friend bought me Circus, which is literally just the entire history of the circus. And the last circus book I have is Advanced Stretching Techniques. It's literally exactly what it says, how to do different stretching techniques. Then I have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. I have 4 books in the Time Machine Girls series, which was written by a friend of mine. I have Never Give Up. All of these follow different characters in history as they time travel to solve mysteries. So this one is Never Give Up, Teamwork, Courage, and Secrets. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. The Hate You Give by Angie Lee Thomas. King of Battle and Blood, Adrian and Isolde by Scarlett St. Clair. Fable by Adrian Young. The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. I'm about to buy the second one, which just came out this week. Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. It's a signed copy, might I add. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley. And then I have the Cruel Prince series, starting with The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. The Wicked King by Holly Black. And The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. And so that is the first section of my YA series, and then we will get to the rest of my YA series, but we're just going to keep going down the row, shelf by shelf. This last shelf down here in the first stack is my professional development, personal development shelf, and so let's talk about these. I have Atomic Habits by James Clear. The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan Cron. This is an Enneagram book because I'm obsessed with the Enneagram. Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. Do Less by Kate Northrup. Chillpreneur by Denise Duffield Thomas. Standing Strong by Allie Worthington. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Bent for Good by Megan Fate Marshman. Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy. Own Your Everyday by Jordan Lee Dooley. You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. Why She Buys by Bridget Brennan. The Power of Regret by Daniel Pink. This is the first arc that I got. Oh Crap Potty Training, because I'm potty training my son. Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman and Mark Winters. Essentialism by Greg McCown. Built to Last by Jim Collins. The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. The 6 Needs of Every Child by Amy Elizabeth Ulrich. Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, which if you have a business or anything like this, or even want to learn how to do your finances better, you need to read this book. Fear is My Homeboy by Judy Haller, my absolute favorite professional development book. The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran. Fighting Forward by Hannah Brencher. Win, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing by Daniel H. Pink. Fear is Not the Boss of You by Jennifer Allwood. The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. Why do I have so many of these? Because I used to only read personal development books for like the last 5 to 6-ish years. I used to think that like if you read fiction books you were wasting your time. I clearly don't think that anymore. Okay, round 2, because I apparently wasn't recording when I did this entire shelf. Okay, so up here I have my romance books. So let's talk about what is on these shelves. So, starting with Beach Read by Emily Henry, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai, The Bride Test by Helen Huang, which is the sequel to The Kids Quotient, The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, which is the 3rd book in the Kids Quotient series, The Pisces by Melissa Broder, In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley, Neon Gods by Katie Robert, Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, definitely excited to read this, it's an anticipated read for 2022, Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur, The Deal by Elle Kennedy, Beautiful Ruins by Jess Walters, November 9th by Colleen Hoover, Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas, Out of Love by Hazel Hayes, Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. Then I have the first book in the Ravenhood series, Flock by Kate Stewart. I definitely need to get the rest soon. Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. Then I have the Brown Sisters trilogy, which includes Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown. Then I have You Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria, How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochran, and The Flow Plan by Trish Dollar. So that is my romance shelf. Then we'll go into my historical fiction shelf, except for I have one book on here that's not historical fiction, but I couldn't fit it anywhere else. And those books include Outlawed by Anna North, Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Marie Semple. This is the one that is not historical fiction. The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, and The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, which I have not read any of these yet, and I definitely need to get on it. Then we have The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and The Angel's Game by him as well. Then we get into our Greek mythology books with The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and Circe by Madeline Miller. I have the first 2 books in the Havana series by Chanel Clayton, including Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton, and When We Left Cuba by Chanel Clayton. And then we finish with The Night Tiger by Yongtze Shu, and Last Summer at the Golden Hotel by Elissa Friedland. And so that's my cute little historical fiction section. And now we are going to move on to just regular fiction and a little bit of horror because I don't have enough room on my thriller shelves. We have my contemporary and literary fiction / a little bit of horror section because, like I said, I ran out of room. And that includes Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin, The Midnight Library by Matthew Haig, all of my Sally Rooney books, which includes Beautiful World, Where Are You?, Normal People, and Conversations with Friends. Then I also have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is about a pandemic. And here's the only nonfiction book on my shelf, which is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It is a memoir that I am super excited to get to this year. Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, which, as you can tell, is drawn all over, hence why it is now mine instead of the library's. Then for some of my horror section, I have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling, and Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. And so that is my little array of literary / contemporary fiction and some horror and thriller. And now we're going to move on to the second half of my YA selection. This is the rest of my YA section, so it spills over between this shelf and that shelf. And so on this shelf, we will start with first book in the Legendborn series by Tracy Dion. Then I have the entire Cinder series, which the first book is actually on my TBR cart because I'm reading it this month. So I do have Cinder, but then I also have Winter by Marissa Meyer, Crest by Marissa Meyer, and Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. Then we have the Truly Devious series, which includes Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, The Vanishing Stare by Maureen Johnson, and The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. I don't have the last one in the series just yet because it's only in hardcover, and I want to wait till it comes out in paperback. We also have Heartless by Marissa Meyer, which is her Alice in Wonderland type story that I'm super excited to read. Then we get to a couple of standalones, which includes Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. It's a Peter Pan retelling of sorts. All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. The Book Thief by Mark Zusak. House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. And we have a couple of series. I only have the first book in the A Curse So Dark and Lonely series by Bridget Kemmerer. And then we have the Raven Cycle series, which includes The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, The Dream Thieves, Blue Lily Lily Blue, and The Raven King. And then we end with the Caraval series. It includes Caraval by Stephanie Gerber, Legendary, Finale. And that is the rest of my YA section. And I'm not going to show you everything that's on this shelf simply because this is literally just like journals and planners and Bible stuff and like all sorts of randomness, but this is at the bottom. So then we have one last row to go. Right, then we start the beginning of my thriller and horror sections. And I have 3 entire shelves for this because this is definitely the books that I pick up the most. And so in no sense of order at all, we have The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I definitely need to read this soon. It's an anticipated read for 2022. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, another 2022 anticipated read. False Witness by Karen Slaughter. The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I was hesitant on getting this considering I hated My Heart of the Chainsaw so much, but I'm willing to give him a second try. The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. The Other Misses by Mary Kubica. Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. And of course the one that got me into thriller to begin with, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. It's the first book in the first Hercule Poirot mystery. They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, Broken by Karen Slaughter, and Blindsided by Karen Slaughter. And we have both of Colleen Hoover's thriller reads, which include Layla by Colleen Hoover and Verity by Colleen Hoover, All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda, Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, The Whisper Man by Alex North, and The Push by Ashley Audrain. Then we have more of my thriller, except for this one. That is not thriller, but I have it on that shelf. I don't know why, but I just have it because of the picture, honestly. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I have 2 Riley Sager books, including Survive the Night and Lock Every Door. The Breakdown by B.A. Paris. The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. The Chalkman by C.J. Tudor. Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. The Couple Next Door and An Unwanted Guest by Sherry Lapina. The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. Watching You by Lisa Jewell. 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Into the Woods by Tana French. Misery by Stephen King. The Shining by Stephen King. It by Stephen King. No Exit by Taylor Adams. The Chestnut Man by Soren Spystrup. And 2 Alice Feeney books, which include His and Hers, and I Know Who You Are. And that is my second out of 3 thriller and horror shelves. Let's get to the last one. And here is the last one. We're going strong, and we start with The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Bart. One by One by Ruth Ware. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. The Club by Ellery Lloyd, which is an arc that I just got recently. It comes out in March. The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. The Green Mile by Stephen King. The Death of Miss Westaway by Ruth Ware. The Wives by Taryn Fisher. Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. And we have a bunch of Ruth Ware paperbacks, which include Dark Dark Wood, The Turn of the Key, The Lying Game, and The Woman in Cabin 10. Then we have The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon. The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney. The Night Swim by Megan Golden. The Escape Room by Megan Golden. And Northern Spy by Flynn Barry. That concludes our thriller and horror section. Now on to sci-fi fantasy. Alright, now let's start with our sci-fi fantasy section, which includes a couple of Samantha Shannon books, Priory of the Orange Tree, The Bone Season, and The Mime Order. Six of Crows series, which includes Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. And I have the first couple of books in the the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, which includes City of Bones, City of Ashes, and City of Glass. Then I have up to the first 5 books in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, which includes The Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Heir of Fire, Crown of Midnight, and Queen of Shadows. Then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lin Tan, which is an anticipated read for 2022. First book in the Jade City series by Fonda Lee, Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. And then I'm not going to take these out of the box because it takes forever to get them back in, but it's the first 3 books in the A Court of Thorn and Roses series, which includes A Court of Thorn and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. And then sorry for the lighting on this one, but I'm holding it for the bottom shelf, and so the last shelf is also sci-fi fantasy, and so that includes A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, The Way of Kings by Mr. Brandy Sandy, both of T.J. Klune's books, which include The House in the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, Piranesi by Susanna Clark, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, Ninth House by Lee Bardugo, Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft, Dune by Frank Herbert, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which, as you notice, I have a lot of first books in series and not the rest, because with fantasy, I don't always know if I'm going to like it, so I like to try the first book first before I buy the rest of the series. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss, Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern, The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin, The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, Lovely War by Julie Berry, and The Invisible Life of Laddie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And those are my sci-fi fantasy shelves. So, now let's talk about my TBR cart. I have two shelves. One shelf is dedicated to all the books that I am currently reading for that month, and then the second shelf underneath it is the books within that month that I have already read. And so these are the books that I am reading this month, which include Pheasant City by Sarah J. Maas, also House of Sky and Breath, but I don't physically have it in my possession as of yet. Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead by Elle Cosimano. The sequel to Finley Donovan is killing it. Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I'm reading this for Kayla, Books with Lala's book club. Jade War by Fonda Lee. It's the second in the Greenbone Saga series. I'm reading this for Mel Reed's Greenbone Saga Readathon. The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood. It's a 5-star prediction for the year. Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. The first book in the Cinder series by Marissa Meyer. Pet Cemetery by Stephen King. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I'm also reading Sundial, which is a new book of hers that releases in March, but I have it as an ebook. And I'm also reading Fool Me Once, which is the newest book that is a romance release by Ashley Winstead that comes out in April, so I don't actually have physical copies of those. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover is one that I already read for this month. So is These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. And then 3 other books that I don't currently have in my possession that are on their way through Book of the Month is The Collective, which I have no idea who that's written by, The Maid by Nita Prose, I believe, and The Golden Couple by Grace Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, which I also have The Wife Between Us. And so those are 3 more books that are going to be on my shelf, but that is all of my shelves in this room. And then the bookshelf in my living room has terrible lighting right now because it's almost dark, and honestly, a lot of those books are just books that I don't really care for and my son has gotten to. So the only good ones that are on that shelf that you can know that I have is the entire Harry Potter series. I like to show it prominently in my living room. The entire series of Unfortunate Events series, and the entire Chronicles of Narnia, like the Witch, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series. And then other than that, I have a bunch of classics, but none of them are in really great condition. And then basically a bunch of like religious personal development books that like I don't really care to read are out there. And that's basically all that you got. Okay? Okay. Don't worry about it. I hope you enjoyed this bookshelf tour. It was super fun for me to do. I hope that you found some awesome reads that you can add to your library. I have a bunch of books, I know. And honestly, I didn't have about half of these books before last year, and so I've kind of gone a little crazy with book shopping, but you know what? It's a beautiful shelf, and so I'm not going to be sad about it in the slightest. I will probably do another bookshelf tour in a couple of months when my books completely change, but for now, this is what we've got. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!